All right, hey guys, I'm just getting ready, but I'm going to do a chit chat, okay? So I wanted to talk a little bit about skincare, sunscreen, and vitamin D, all right? And I want to pull those together to make things make a little more sense so that people can make good decisions and not just listen to the bullets out there that are being pumped by dermatologists and people in the sunlight healing community. And they're not adequately informing people, okay? And that's my beef with both sides of the table. They are putting their 2 cents in, and they're giving you what they want you to know, but they're not actually going into the gray area. And we all know with life, most of life is gray, okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of gray, and you can make the decision as to what you want to do for your skin, okay? And your health, your overall health. Now, the dermatology and the aesthetic world, they are completely correct when they say that the rays of the sun damage the skin. It absolutely does that, okay? The sunlight healing community proposes that despite that, we also get a lot of healing benefit from the sun, which is where I fundamentally disagree, okay? Fundamentally. Because healing, in the truest sense of the word, healing, is when the body heals itself, self-healing, through balance, homeostasis, and correction, okay? Bringing things into alignment with the way our biology and physiology is programmed to function optimally, right? Anytime you manipulate, and it doesn't matter with what, a drug, a remedy, a treatment, sunlight, it doesn't matter, okay? That is not a true healing response. It is a response to protect yourself from the sun, okay? So the benefits that you get are simply protective mechanisms. They are survival mechanisms to protect you from the damage of the rays. It's how your body responds to that. It just happens to be a perk for people who want that benefit. It's not a perk for everyone. There's some things that are not a perk for someone, like the lowering blood pressure. Well, if you already have low blood pressure, the lowering of the blood pressure would not be a good thing for you, okay? The dilating of the vessels, not good if you have a vascular issue. Okay, so it's not a healing effect. It's just an effect. And it's just that some people like those effects, okay? When they talk about people who get more sun exposure, have less cancer overall and all of that, well, of course they do, because they're not living in cubicles, all right? And they're not sitting at desks all day in buildings with no sunshine. So again, correlation is not causation. Again, we know this, right? We know this. So they're scamming you as much as the dermatology world is scamming you. And the dermatology is scamming you in a slightly different way, because they're promoting the truth, but they're not giving you all of the information, and they're not really giving people the truth about the sketchiness behind chemical sunscreens and the companies that make them, and the lack of rigorous scientific studies determining if they're even safe for humans, never mind children, babies, pregnant women, teenagers whose hormones are in that massive flux. Okay, so there's a huge problem with that. Okay, I don't trust dermatologists at all. Of course, being in skincare my whole adult life, I actually have to work with people that have gone that route, and they have been seriously damaged and maimed by a lot of the treatments that dermatologists have recommended, the treatments and the drugs. It's nasty. It's nasty. And unfortunately, it's a lot worse than, people think. It's just like modern medicine. The reason we see so much of this is because when you work in natural skincare or natural healing, meaning the whole body, natural healing, we oftentimes see people as a last resort because they're really, really desperate. Okay, so we get them after they've been really damaged because they've gone through the system, and they just stop going to the doctors. They just don't go anymore because they've let them down so badly. And then people like me try to help them pick up the pieces and start healing again, okay? And it's okay to use remedies and treatments and things to help the body as it's healing, but you can't forget about the fundamental pieces. And that's where so many people are definitely missing the mark. And you have a lot of people in the carnivore community that think because they don't sunburn anymore, that it's okay for them to just keep tanning and staying out in the sun. But what they're neglecting to understand is that the UVA rays are not blocked by a tan, okay? Not on Caucasian people anyway. So people that have permanent melanin, which are people that have naturally darker skin, and they were the original people prior to the agricultural and the religious domination of the planet, because they happened at the same exact time, which is interesting. I know. I've done videos on that. If you haven't watched them, go check them out. I think it's called Agriculture, Religion, and something like that. And there's two videos in that series. But prior to that, even people who lived in the north had melanated skin, okay? So they had a permanent baseline of protection from the UV rays, because even people that lived in the north still had some exposure to UV. So they had this baseline of permanent protection, and they were getting the overwhelming majority of their vitamin D from food. Okay, so humans were never intended to get all of their vitamin D from the sun. That is a myth, okay? If you think about, or if you listen to any of the ancient stories about early humans, they are always referred to as forest people, green people, shade dwellers, okay? They weren't known as sunbathers, okay? Or desert dwellers. That came later, all right? That definitely came later. So, prior to the agricultural revolution, those that lived in the north had permanent melanin skin. Now, the shades would be different depending on how close you get to the equator, but everybody had a certain baseline of permanent melanin, and that seems to disappear right at the agricultural religious showdown that went down on this planet, okay? And I know some argue some different reasons for that, like it had to happen because they weren't getting any vitamin D, because they weren't eating the fatty animal foods anymore, and that's what nature did so that humanity wouldn't die out. But yet there are other cultures and tribes that went agriculture kind of the same location, or I don't want to say same location, but like, you know, in the same the UV band, whose skin didn't turn white. So it makes you wonder, what's going on here? Why did only certain people have that happen, but not others who shared a very similar situation? They maintained their permanent melanin. So lots of questions, okay? But anyway, this isn't what this video is about. This video is about why you want to protect your skin. For those of us who are Caucasian, we don't have permanent melanin, which puts us at a much greater risk for sun damage, much greater, okay? And the fact that a base tan, does not protect you from UVA rays, and those are the ones that go very, very deep into your body. They actually destroy your blood. They destroy what's in your blood. They destroy some nutrients. It's not a good thing, okay? Especially folate, all right? It especially destroys folate, which honestly can be a flippin' disaster, especially for anybody that has some metabolic issues, MTHFR mutations. It could be a disaster. This is probably why a lot of people with MTHFR mutations and metabolic issues don't feel good in the sun. They start getting a lot of sun and they actually start to feel terrible. Yeah, it's your body telling you, get the hell out. Get the hell out of the sun, okay? Now, shade, most people are going to be fine in the shade. We do get diffused light in the shade, so that's a really good way to, get the light into your eyes. You also get a little bit of rays onto your skin as well when you're in the shade. So it's not an all or nothing, okay? And even if you wear sunscreen, you are still making some vitamin D, okay? Just so you know. So it's not a matter of choosing between exposing your bare skin and tanning and ending up with thick, leathery skin, because trust me, you will. You absolutely will. You will start to look weathered over time, and leathered and weathered, okay? And then you're gonna have to resort to all sorts of manipulation to try to wrangle that and to try to mitigate that, all right? Or do it sensibly. Now, I realized that we are already almost in July, almost in August. We're at the end of July, almost into August, and I have hardly had any sunlight. I just haven't really been out that much. I've just been busy. And my diet has not been super high in vitamin D. I do eat salmon once in a while. I do eat pork, so I get pork fat from pastured pigs. I do eat egg yolks, but I don't eat a ton of them. I don't eat liver. I hate liver. I absolutely despise it. I will never take cod liver oil because every time they test them in labs, they're always rancid, and I'm not taking that. So I do try to eat salmon from time to time, but I just don't love it enough where I want to eat it often. And then of course you've got the mercury issue and stuff like that. Making sure that it's, ocean caught and, all of that stuff. So I went out this morning and I put a little bandeau on and a little bikini bottom. And I did get about 15, 20 minutes of sunlight when the UV was about a 3-4, okay? And again, I did cover my face and I did get a little bit of sun on my body and my back. I flipped over, and I am going to try to build my vitamin D stores for the winter because it's just been a slow going for me. Again, I usually try to be a lot more mindful, and I usually get a little more sun than this in the summertime. So I really haven't been getting as much sunlight. And usually, like, if I cover up, I have like a thin linen shirt on, which does let some of the rays in. So I am making some vitamin D. So that's what I usually do, and I really haven't been doing it. So I am doing the balancing act right now, but it is a balancing act, okay? Because I certainly don't want to accumulate any more damage to my already sun damaged skin. Okay, but it's mostly my face and my chest that I have to protect, and my upper back. I've, very rarely gotten sunburns on other parts of my body. So again, it's all just being really mindful, and don't take I'm not giving advice. So don't take, my routine and think that it has to be your routine. I'm only doing it because I really don't think I'm getting enough vitamin D, although I do have basically a keto carnivore diet. It's not always 100% carnivore, but it's pretty close, which means my vitamin D levels don't need to be as high as somebody who has like a high carb diet. And the more sunlight you actually get on your skin, the more vitamin D you need, because your body has to now repair that damage. So again, it's one of these things, right? It's like you need to think about it from the bigger picture and not just from like isolated little snippets, okay? So I do want to be clear. Every so-called benefit other than the light, the morning light, the early morning light, and the later afternoon light coming into the eyes and triggering, melatonin and all of those amazing circadian rhythm, physiological mechanisms in the body. Other than that, okay, we don't have to be getting a lot of sunlight on our skin. All of the so-called benefits are perks. They are perks from a physiological process that is directly designed to protect your body from the rays of the sun. It is not a healing response. Healing doesn't come with a cost. Okay, when you eat healthy food, there's not a cost. Okay, it's not damaging your body at the same time. It's nourishing your body. It's healing your body. Your body uses what it needs. It does create some metabolic waste, and then your body either recycles it and uses it again or eliminates it, but it's not causing damage. Okay, anything that in order to get a benefit causes outright damage, you might want to think about reassessing that. And is that something you would want to do on a regular basis? I don't know. People say they feel better when they start tanning. They feel better when they get more sunlight. Well, of course you do, because you're outdoors in nature. but you'd feel good if you were out in the shade too, okay? And if your vitamin D is so low and you absolutely have to get sun, you might want to think of changing your diet, because if you're not eating enough animal fats, you are absolutely not getting enough vitamin D, okay? Animal fats, again, salmon, liver, which I will never be eating liver. Although I say that, I was buying this ground burger from Wellness Meats like many years ago, many years ago, when my kids were little. And it was ground burger, some liver, and some heart. And if I made a meatloaf with it, I could eat it. Not as a regular burger, but if I made a meatloaf and put a little spices and cheese and stuff in it, I could actually tolerate it. I could eat it. So I think I might start playing around with that again. Again, I don't like to eat a lot of spices, and I don't like to have too many days where I'm not hardcore carnivore, but I'm willing to be flexible, especially if it means saving my skin. But I also want to save my body too, because I don't do well with spices when I eat too many of them. I can have them like once in a blue moon and I do okay. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So again, another source is pork fat, as long as it's from pasture raised pigs. It has to be pasture raised where they're getting enough sunlight. Okay, their fat tends to have a lot of vitamin D in it. And again, just balancing it. But one of the things, and I've gone down the rabbit hole with this, I've done some deep diving, is that when you have an animal-based diet and you're not eating the traditional diet, high carbohydrates that so many people are, even if it's so-called healthy carbs, which I'm not convinced there's really, any such thing anymore. That's just me personally, because I think, again, what you get for benefit is unfortunately countered by negatives. So for me, it's just not something I want to do to my body anymore at this stage of the game. That those people actually require a lot more vitamin D because they have a lot more that their body has to deal with versus people that are eating a really, really clean animal-based diet, okay? And as long as your fat is high enough to keep you in beta oxidation and utilizing ketones instead of glucose metabolism, because there's a lot of negatives that come with glucose metabolism, okay? But being in a fat burning metabolism is kind of a win-win for your body, okay? And the body has more healing stuff. It heals better. Ketones do amazing things for the body. So your body just doesn't have as many healing requirements. I hope that makes sense. I hope it does, okay? Anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys with that for now. Signing out.